And if you believe, as I do, that this might have been a weapons vector gone awry, not deliberately released, but in development and then somehow leaked, this has turned out to be the greatest weapon in history.
That was David Asher, former lead COVID-19 investigator at the U.S. State Department. To mark the anniversary of the coronavirus and Beijing's cover-up of it, the Hudson Institute brought these panelists to talk about China's role in the pandemic and what it means for the future. A year later, and we still don't know what happened. Last month, WHO investigators left China with no formal conclusions on the origin of the coronavirus. Part of the reason is that China only allowed the team to look at limited data. It was more of a chaperoned 2-week study tour where they were given highly curated information. The Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, has been particularly sensitive about the idea that they are the ones responsible for making the virus spread around the world. In a tweet, a state-run media journalist said that this investigation was not about proving anyone guilty. But the CCP did keep a tight lid on the virus when it broke out in late 2019. In fact, the U.S. first learned about it from Taiwan's Economic and Cultural Office in the States. Also that time, the WHO was repeating Beijing's claims that there was no human-to-human transmission, when in fact, China's own doctors were saying otherwise.
They immediately began destroying samples, removing databases from public access, imprisoning citizen journalists who were asking tough questions. And from then until now, there is a universal gag order on scientists for publishing or speaking out in any way about the origins of the pandemic without the approval of the government.
The cover-up warrants another question. Why do it? And what was the CCP hiding? A big topic at the panel was the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And that's a sensitive issue. A lot of people have been asking, was the virus man-made? Could it have been a biological weapon?
It doesn't mean that they did this, but when you look, as I do, having run criminal investigations as well, you got to say motive, cover-up, conspiracy, all the hallmarks of guilt are associated with this thing. And the fact that the initial cluster of victims surrounded the very institute that was doing the highly dangerous, if not dubious research is significant. And the fact that they massively covered it up, destroyed evidence, and denied access in a way that they didn't do in COVID-1 back in 2002, 2003. I was the senior State Department official involved in discussing that issue with the Chinese government, and they had more than enough to tell us about that. They kept it pretty secret from their own people, but they did warn us that they had a big problem on their hands. In this case, they told us nothing.
And although they kept silent, the Chinese Communist Party has admitted before to having an appetite for biowarfare. They tend to say such things through state-run media. These are some of the observations Asher had while working at the State Department. Watch.
And then that same year on Chinese national TV, there was an interesting media commentary by their lead PLA commentator on the nightly news in China, where he talked about that we have entered into an area of Chinese biowarfare, and including using things like viruses.
But even if the CCP has biowarfare ambitions, the environment that China's research labs are in is incredibly poor. There are no proper safety regulations, protocols, or quality controls. China's biolab directors admit this themselves, and that, according to Miles Yu, is an accident waiting to happen. That has led investigators like Asher to theorize this.
That this might have been a weapons vector gone awry, not deliberately released, but in development and then somehow leaked. This has turned out to be the greatest weapon in history. You've taken out, 15 to 20% of global GDP. You've killed millions of people. The Chinese population has been barely affected. Their economies roared back to being #1 in the entire G20.
So there's that. Not only did the CCP cover up a deadly virus for at least 2 months, but it's possible that it doesn't have the competence to run its level 4 biosafety labs. And we have no idea what kinds of other deadly virus strains lie within those facilities.
So this is why the world should be really worried about the behavior pattern of the Chinese Communist Party. And I will say, based upon the enormous damage done to the world, and we think, based upon the discovery of the true origin and the establishment of the culpability and then I think the world should seek reparation.
China, of course, has denied any of these accusations, going as far as tweeting conspiracy theories that the virus was made in the U.S. At the same time, a fact sheet released in January by the previous administration has confirmed that the Wuhan Institute of Virology has engaged in classified research, including laboratory animal experiments on behalf of the Chinese military since at least 2017. They also added that the CCP's deadly obsession with secrecy and control comes at the expense of public health in China and around the world. And it's because of that secrecy that Metzel has organized an open letter this month calling for a full and unrestricted international forensic investigation into the origins of the virus. And that's it for this story. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you would like to support our work, click on the donation link in the description. We'll see you in the next video.